Hi there, Rospot here from Books from My Bookshelf, and it's book review time this week. And I have been reading One Day by David Nicholls, which was a #1 bestseller. I think somebody wants to say hello. Here she is. Say hello. Right, she's gone again. This looks like quite a chunky novel, but actually I read this pretty quickly. It was one of those books that I think, it's one when you start reading you kind of don't want to stop. So yes, I did really enjoy this book. First published in 2009, so it's been around for a while, and it was made into a film starring Anne Hathaway, which I would really like to see. For some reason, that film has passed me by. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it. So it's definitely one I want to see now I've read the book. For those of you who don't know this book, the premise is the two main characters in this book, Dexter and Emma, kind of meet up more or less for the first time on their graduation day from university. And they have a kind of one-night stand, but nothing really happens. They kind of just talk, but they are obviously sort of very attracted to each other. But they become friends, close friends. Their lives take different paths. And the structure of this book is that we catch up with them on one day of every year, on the 15th of July, the sort of same day that they had this kind of one night together. And we catch up every year for 20 years after they first meet. And although they remain close friends, at least for quite a while, they're very different people and their lives take very different paths for several years. Well, Dexter comes from a very conservative background, but is a much more of a free thinker, laid back kind of person. Emma is kind of more politically left and very much feels that one should do things to change things in the world. And she can be overcritical of other people. So we see these two different characters and the way their lives develop over the years. Dexter's career seems to take off. He becomes a well-known TV presenter, but he also becomes a bit of an idiot, really. He drinks too much, takes drugs, he stays out late, he has one-night stands, he's just a bit of a womanizer as well. While Emma's life at first seems to not to be going anywhere. She just has some very sort of mediocre jobs that she hates for a while. But her career sort of takes off steadily, and she gradually sort of, she becomes a teacher for a while, and then she wants to be a writer, and that happens very gradually. So we see how their lives take completely different paths, and yet they stay in touch with each other, and they have different partners. For a while it seems they seem to grow completely apart, and various things happen. Inevitably, Dexter's career takes a bit of a nosedive, and they kind of, we see them sort of coming back together again. So I'm not going to go any further than that, because of spoilers. But that's basically the structure of the novel, and we just catch up with them this one day every year. And I really love that premise of seeing this development of their careers, relationships, etc. Once a year. It's very, very clever and very compelling reading. Now, you've heard me say that I don't tend to buy romance books, but there's a certain type of romance book that I really don't like, and it's sort of very, very sickly sweet type of romance or over sensationalized romance. This is a romance novel, but it's my type of romance novel because there's nothing sickly sweet about this, and it certainly does not end in a nice, sugary, everything's perfect kind of way and tied up with a neat pink ribbon. Definitely doesn't. And for those of you who've read the book, you know that it definitely does not have that kind of perfect ending. What I absolutely love about this novel is its realism. The real theme of this novel, and what I like, I read some of these, it's one of these books that has sort of questions and answers at the back, where David Nicholls answers various questions. He's talking about the screenplay as well for the film. But one of the questions was, what was the inspiration behind One Day? And I'll just quote from this answer. I had just turned 40 and my first novel was about what it felt like to be 20. And I was curious to explore what happens to us in between, how our expectations of the future fulfilled or disappointed. How do we end up here? Do we change along the way or stay the same? And he really does explore these themes of what it's like to be just starting out in life. These two people have just graduated from university with all that expectation in front of them, and they have this discussion about what they're going to do with their lives. And neither of them are really quite sure, but they have some ideas. And we see by doing this sort of one day a year as the book goes along, we see that trajectory of their lives, and we see how lives just don't go the way we expect. And sometimes we think it is, but it's actually not. And things come along and happen, and life gets in the way, basically. And this is so well observed in that respect. And I think anybody who has already gone through those years between 20 and 40, we can see that. Yes, I mean, my life at 40 was so completely different from what my expectations were at 20. It was a completely different life. So I really got that about this book, but also in the nitty gritty of the writing. I love his detail. I love the innermost thoughts of the characters, the awkwardness they have in dealing with relationships, dealing with other people, the thoughts you have, the things you say and wish you hadn't, and the things you didn't say and you wish you had, the regrets, just those kind of everyday difficulties in people's lives. I just found myself thinking, oh my God, yes, I know that. I've had those thoughts. I've been there. I just find that he has a brilliant way of getting into people's heads, and not, as a man, he got into Emma's head as well, really well. And he also observes very well the changes in the background of between the years. It starts out in 1988. So there are references to the music of the times, and of course at the beginning, any phone calls are made on landlines, things about trying to find a phone box, and of course at some point you get the mobile phones coming in. But that's not all that kind of reference to what's going on in terms of media, etc. It's not overdone, but it's there realistically in the background, and he does it so well. It's also very funny. Emma herself comes out with some brilliant lines. She has a very, very kind of cutting, sarcastic kind of sense of humour, but it's also very witty as well. The book is, as he says in that interview at the back, the theme is very much about how lives change, how expectations change, how there are disappointments, and sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't go as you planned. But also that question of, do people change over time? And in some ways, yes, there is, we see them changing to some degree so that they kind of come back. They are actually sort of closer when they sort of start coming back together. But in some ways, I always think of that as kind of becoming more themselves, having sort of got rid of all the self-conscious, trying too hard kind of thing you do when you're in your 20s. So yeah, it's very interesting, lots of insight, lots of observation about the way life happens. It's gritty, it doesn't, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it does have difficult ending in many ways. And I like that. I don't like everything to be tied up neatly and, happy ever after, because I just don't think that's realistic. So yeah, I really like this book, can you tell? I can't think of anything to say to really criticise it, to be honest. It's a story about two people, and it's quite profound. And it goes into the characters of both of them really deeply, whilst not being sort of overly heavy-handed and serious. It has a real light touch, yet it asks questions and has things to say. So I can't believe it's taken me this long to come round to read this. Highly recommended if you haven't read this. So my next book review is going to be this one, which I picked up quite recently. Thank you, Tilly. This is Going to Hurt. And this is written in the form of diaries by Adam Kay. So it's not really a novel. It's really his own experiences of working in the NHS as a junior doctor. And I think, as Stephen Fry says on the front, I think this is going to be painfully funny. Very much going to be about the state of the National Health Service, doctors working ridiculous hours, but it's going to be funny as well. The Guardian newspaper says, so funny and important it should be given out on prescription. And it has recently been made into a TV miniseries. So I thought it would be good to read this first, because I think I'd quite like to watch that too. But I really want to read the book first. So that's going to be interesting. Next week, I think, will be a book list of some sort. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet. So if you have any suggestions, I'm always open to looking at those. So that's it for now. I'll put a link up to my last book review here as well. Tilly's asleep. Shall we go and just say goodbye to the dog? There we go. Not being at her most sociable today. Have a great weekend, folks. The sun is out here in the UK. It's going to be a nice warm one, I think. So have fun, whatever you're doing, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.